What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's YouTube video. In today's video, I have something special for you. I wish I had a video like this when I started training. There was bits and pieces out there, but nothing that just outlaid this. If I had these 10 steps when I first walked into the gym and I was actually, I put my ego to the side and I listened to them, man, I would have made so much better progress. I would have saved so many injuries and I'd be sweet. So hopefully this guys helps you out. Let me know if it does. Tip number one, the most important, learn proper form and technique. Now, if I had learned this from the start, I would have avoided so much going back and forward, back. I cannot tell you the amount of times I've progressed in weight and then realized my form's not good enough. I end up hurting myself, so I have to come back down. I progress back up, come back down. If you just learn proper form and technique from the get-go, put that ego to the side, leave it at the door, I guarantee your results will be so much better. Not only that, you won't get injured, and therefore if you don't get injured, you can just keep progressing at a steady pace. Tip number two, use full range of motion on every exercise. Now, full range of motion, that doesn't mean just because, so-and-so over in the corner is doing half reps, you have to do half reps, but also doesn't mean just because someone else is squatting arse to grass that you have to squat arse to grass. Full range of motion, it'll take you a little bit of time to learn this, guys, but it depends on your mobility, your strength, but I want you to use your full range of motion. So if you're just cutting the reps down because someone else is, or you see your favorite Instagram influencer doing half these ones, just because I have massive shoulders, it's not gonna work for you guys. So full range of motion, and therefore that ties into tip number one, good form technique. Tip number two, full range of motion, and those two will also help avoid injury as well. Tip number three, now this one's crucial. Train legs. Now I know that sounds train legs, but honestly when I first started, I was I'll train legs, and I'd train them maybe once a fortnight, or if one of my mates was no, we got to do it, then I'd be yeah, okay. But if I took it seriously, if I trained legs from the start, these little puppies, they might actually have some size to them, and that, guys, that's another tip. I've been training these obviously once, twice a week for the last 3 to 5 years, and as you can see, they're not on par with my upper body. So if you don't train them from the start, not only are you going to build imbalances, you're going to look like a bit of a, I call it a top heavy twat, because you're going to have a massive upper body, tiny little legs. You're also going to tap into that injury side as well, like I previously touched on. So when I was training, first starting out, and I was avoiding legs, and I was hitting them maybe once a fortnight, once every 10 days, if that, I wasn't training them properly, I kept getting lots of lower back issues because my upper body was getting stronger. I could bench heavy and stuff, but my legs, my glutes, they couldn't keep up and they couldn't stabilize the pelvis. So for example, when I'm benching and I was arching and stuff like that, my legs couldn't stabilize my pelvis, my core wasn't strong enough because I wasn't doing heavy leg work, therefore I kept getting lower back injuries, and it's not a good time. So train legs. Tip number four, use an even training split. Now what I mean by that is, let's say for example, you're trained 4 times a week, you might want to consider upper, lower, upper, lower. Therefore you're hitting upper body twice a week, you're hitting lower body twice a week. So many times I've got clients or people come to me yeah, I've been training 6 months and I want an arm specialized program, I want a shoulders, and I'm well, you need to build the foundation first. So, you can't build a house. When you build a house, you start with the bottom here. You don't start with the roof. Okay, that's what people that's how I see when people come to me I want an arm specific program. I'm but you got no foundation, you got no legs, you got no back, got no chest, got no shoulders. So train everything evenly for the first at least 1 to 2 years before you start picking out lagging body parts and being oh, I need to do more shoulders, or I need to do more arms, things like that. Not only, again, this all comes back to injuries, it'll help tons with injuries, but you're gonna your physique is gonna look so much better, and you're not gonna have that out of proportion sort of look to you. Tip number 5, don't do my mistake of, I call it the cut, bulk, cut, bulk, cut, bulk cycle. Now what I mean by that is, I was just going back and forth when I started, I would bulk for 2 months, if that. I'll do a 4 to 8 week bulk, and then I'll do a 4 to 8 week cut, and then a 4 to 8 week bulk, and it was the dumbest thing because I would just think, oh yeah, I'll put on as much weight as possible in 8 weeks, which is retarded because I was gaining heaps of fat, and then I'd be oh, now I'll cut. And I never actually built a solid foundation of muscle until I realized, and I started learning from better coaches and stuff. I was okay, I actually have to spend majority of the time in a surplus, so on a bulk. That way I can build a solid foundation, I can build strength, I can build muscle. Once I get to a point where I've done it for at least 6 months, guys, especially if you're just starting at least 6 months, then I'm all right, cool, now I can cut down, I can get rid of this fat, and I can actually see some muscle underneath, When skinny guys come to me and stuff like that, new clients, and I'm yeah, I'd love to help you out, what do you want to do? And they're oh, I'm gonna get shredded, and I'm kind of well, you need to build some muscle first, otherwise we can get you lean, but there's gonna be nothing to see. So you need to build a foundation, and then you'll be able to see the muscle you've built. So don't go cut, bulk, cut, bulk, cut, bulk. Tip number 6, guys, learn the basics of nutrition. Even the bare basics, you'll avoid so many mistakes and you won't do what I did. And I would, I would look up someone, I'd be like, oh, they look great, they must know what they're talking about. Little did I know they were sponsored by, so-and-so supplement company. I'd buy all their supplements, all the fat burners, and then I'd be like, hey, it's not working, what the fuck? So if you can just learn just the basics of nutrition, guys, you'll be sweet. Now, to give you a little pointer on that, where to start, because I was like, where do I start? You know, do I do keto? Do I do intermittent fasting? Do I do all these crazy things? No. Okay, just learn calories, learn foods and what's in foods. So for example, start tracking your foods, it doesn't even matter if you don't have targets, just start tracking stuff and then you'll learn, oh cool, okay, a banana is carbs, okay, you know, chicken, steak, fish, that's protein sources. Okay, nuts, when people say nuts are good protein sources, no, nuts are good fat sources. Nuts is classified as fats, okay? That stuff you will start to learn and then you can piece it together from there. For example, guys, with all of my clients, I don't just say, hey, here's your meal plan, I want you to eat 200 grams of chicken, 100 grams of rice, blah, blah, blah. When they get their meals, they get the recipes, they get the full macro breakdown, the full calorie breakdown of each meal, and then for the entire day. That way they can see, cool, day one, I gotta have 2,500 calories, 160 of that's protein, 200 carb, whatever it is. And they go, cool, breakfast is, you know, oats and protein, and cool, it's got 45 grams of protein, it's got 50 grams of oats. That way, when they like put that meal together, they know, oh, okay, this meal here, this has, you know, X amount of protein, carbs, fats. That way they're learning along the way as well. They're not just following what I give them blindly without teaching themselves. And then when they go out, say they go out for a family dinner, they look at it and they're like, oh yeah, that's probably roughly this much protein, this much carbs, this much fats. That's how I learned, by tracking everything. And then when I went out and I was looking at dinner, I would go out for breakfast, I would be like, oh yeah, I know roughly how much that is. And you'll learn so much more that way. It helps a ton. Tip number 7. Now, guys, this one, take everything with a grain of salt. So I fucked up on this one so many times. You know, I would look up to someone on, you know, Instagram wasn't even really, it only just started when I started training, old fart. But like YouTube and stuff, I started learning on there. And like magazines and stuff, especially, like I'd look up to, you know, like, you know, the massive bodybuilders. I'm like, well, Ronnie Coleman's huge, like he eats like this, I should eat like this. No, do not do that, okay? Just because someone has a great physique, it doesn't mean they know what they're talking about, all right? Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't, because, you know, there's amazing coaches out there with amazing physiques, and I've learned off tons of them, but there's also people out there with amazing physiques. They might just have great genetics. They might just be a freak of nature. They might just be on the juice. Who knows? But there's tons of people out there that they look amazing, but I wouldn't take their advice, or I would take everything they say with a grain of salt, you know? Because I've looked up people before and they're like, yeah, you need this fat burner to get shredded. And I'm like, all right, cool. And this is what I was saying before. Later on, now I know, okay, they were sponsored by that company. Every time someone buys that from them, they earn money. So I'm like, yeah, cool, okay, I'll buy it, I'll take it. And I'm like, I'm not shredded. What the hell? Like, you lied to me. So therefore, just because I have a great physique, just because you look up to them, it does not mean they know everything and they're the best person to learn from. Tip number 8, all right guys, apart from protein and creatine, and only if they're affordable, only if they're not gonna break the bank, then they're good. Apart from that, don't even worry about supplements. Hey, like I pretty much, that's all I take now. I use protein powder daily because I think it's so convenient. It actually works out cheaper than like meat quite often, and creatine, because creatine is probably the most science-backed supplement there is, and it's like dirt cheap. The rest, I don't even worry about. But when I first started, I would be taking every supplement under the sun because I thought I was gonna get such good progress, and like, I just wasted so much money. So that is an easy tip for you guys, but honestly, don't even worry about it. Get your nutrition sorted first, and then if you can afford it, bring in some protein powder and creatine. That's all you need. Tip number 9, meal timing is not as important as you think. Now, I wish I knew this one because I would have saved myself so much time and I would have been so less stressed. I thought, guys, when I first started training, if you have half a brain, you're gonna laugh at this one. I thought, like, as soon as I finish training, I need to get straight to the drink fountain. I need to fill up my 2 scoops of protein. I need to down it, otherwise I'm gonna start losing muscle. Like, that is the dumbest shit ever. If I could go back, I would laugh at myself because it is not that important. As long as you get your protein intake for the day and your calorie intake for the day, you're golden. You're golden. Now, I will say with that, if you've covered all bases, like, you know, your calories are sweet, your macros are sweet, your training's on point, you're pretty advanced, and you want to introduce a bit of meal timing, like, it can help in terms of having a good session. That's it. It's not going to build more muscle though, like directly. Indirectly it can help because, for example, like I would be having carbs pre and post workout just so I can like have a good session, fuel it, because if you're not like fueled before a session, you're going to train like shit and you're going to be weak. That's the only thing I would say to you guys. If you want to bring in a bit of like meal timing, just try to get some carbs and stuff around your training. All right guys, my last tip for you today, tip number 10, is you do not need to feel destroyed when you leave the gym, and it doesn't take 90 sets for chest for it to grow, okay? If I knew this back then, I would spend like 90 minutes to 2 hours just annihilating my chest. It was so stupid, and I would like hit that on like a Monday.
3 hours later.
And and then I would literally wait all the way to next Monday to hit it again. Like, it doesn't take a week for your chest to recover, but you don't need to kill it that much as well. Like, now I'll hit a whole push session. So chest, shoulders, and tris in like 60 to 90 rather than just chest in 2 hours. Hope those tips help, guys. If they do, leave a comment below, let me know. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, drop a like, all the good stuff. Let me know what else you want to see. Let me know what mistakes you've made, because I guarantee I've made all of them and I'm not ashamed of it. I just hope I can help you guys out and not make the same mistakes, and you'll make so much better progress than I did.